Well, hey, welcome everybody, whatever this is. This is
Wherever you are.
doing this, figuring this out. Hey, whatever. But welcome to this discussion of Insights for Impact. And our special guest today, Chris Colt, who you see on our screen. So to kick off, let's just give a bit of background as to who we are. Sandra Dee, do you want to kick that one off for us?
Well, I can, sure. I'm a leadership and communication expert, a recovering actress, live in Austin, Texas. And what makes me a little bit different is that I pair leaders with horses, and we do nature-based retreats and private coaching and corporate events. So that's what I do. And Peter, go.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, I am a leadership consultant, leadership coach as well, specifically on the concept of inside out leadership, mental fitness, and how that ties in with leadership. And with a background in engineering, I'm bringing all of that together with, especially for technical orientated people, engineers, scientists, things like that. And I wanted to introduce our guest today, Chris Colt, who is he's here joining us today. Give you a quick, here's a quick bio here. As I read, Chris is here to raise the bar for building thriving communities for missions that matter. Since 2017, Chris helps build thriving communities for impact-driven thought leaders, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, and other organizations looking to create a scalable culture while creating new income streams. With more than 25 years as a sales leader, he contributed to launching 2 startups that exceeded over 100 million in sales in under 3 years. He's helped create a private community of CEOs and entrepreneurs, along with helping them launch a community that generated over $1 billion in sales in under 5 years. Chris, welcome to Insights for Impact and our conversation today.
Welcome. It's great to see everybody. I see LinkedIn Live's loading up, so welcome everybody on LinkedIn Live. So some of the technical difficulties is partially Chris's fault. We have a community page, a private community page we're going to talk about. And I thought it would be awesome to have our broadcast also go to all you that are in that community page. Lesson learned, don't try that on a live event. So there you go.
Oh, we'll try it. We're going to try it again. We're going to try it again, Chris, because I think it can happen.
Oh, it will. I do think it can happen, but we didn't want to keep that background noise, so we apologize for that. I'll take the ownership on that one. That's what happens when you test things on the fly, but you got to test them.
You got to do that. And this is great. So, Chris, hey, let's start off. Why missions that matter? What is missions that matter? You created the hashtag missions that matter. How did that all come together?
You know, it's kind of an interesting journey. And I'll start it from this. I had a mentor ask me this question once, and I know a lot of people who've been on LinkedIn Lives hear me ask this all the time, but you know, whom are you fighting for and why are you fighting for them? And I've had that asked to me multiple times in different renditions of life. And there was always oh, it's my family, it's my kids, it's this, it's that. And I had one mentor who said, put all that aside. Never, he goes, family, kids, all these other things, legacy, that's always going to be important. That's everybody. But what is deeper on that? What is it that you can do better than that? And it took me a while to figure that out, to be quite frank with you. Actually, it took me quite a few years, but I believe that question, when somebody asks you it, it's the core of everything when it comes to finding your purpose and mission in life. You know, I was talking about this a lot for the last few years. I believe we all have a movement within us, right? We all go through something in life, some type of journey. Some it's more challenging than others. And some people just figure this thing of life out so fast they get to a further place than others do. But whatever you learn in that process, if it's you had to go through something that transformed you into a new person, you figured out a lot of things along the way, or if you're one of those blessed people that just skyrocketed with no issues in the way, maybe you'll find them one day, but you have that mission in you that you can help others get to that place also. So I believe, you know, from what I've learned in life and things that I've been through, because I never fit in life, right? When I was in high school, they called me beanbag. Now some of those same friends call me string bean because of the way I ride bikes. But, you know, you don't realize what being called something like that makes you feel like growing up. I mean, there's good things to that because it fuels you in a different way, but it also kind of makes you angry at people along the way, because you just, when you're in the teenage years and you're getting called that brings a lot of things internally, and it actually impacts you later in life.
So Chris, would you, I want to just ask, does that mean like, because I was bullied in high school. Okay. And so would you consider that bullying or just regular kid play?
I think it's kid play in the scenario it was, but you know, eventually when you're walking through every high school hallway and that's what you're called, it gets, like Sandra, like you said, bully. And you know, look at this right now. your background, like you were bullied in high school and look who you've become in that process, right?
Yeah.
So
And
I
I
mean,
identify with the anger. I identify with the anger that you didn't say anger. You
yeah.
said it fuels you. But for me, there was a sort of anger, and anger being a secondary emotion, of course, it's fueled in something else. But that definitely was a drive there, interestingly enough, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
Well, and it became a massive drive for me. It was one day, because I never truly felt that I felt in, fit in anywhere. And then one day I get on this bicycle thing, and all of a sudden there's all these people riding bikes. And hey, the reality of cyclists, most of us are kind of, we don't want to be around people. And I know that sounds horrible, but we're kind of like, we figure things out along the way. But I realized those personalities would get together in what they call the peloton, right? When you're riding a bike, you see the Tour de France riders together. Nobody cared about each other's personality. We were all on a mission to get forward faster together. And it didn't matter if you were a better sprinter, you were better at this, you were better at that. We worked together to figure out who had the strengths, who had the weaknesses, and get that to our biggest advantage. And it was that moment I was like, wow, I feel part of something finally. And fast forward, here it is. I've done some crazy 100-mile mountain bike races in my life, but I'm grateful for that, because that bike, all that fuel that was, you call it anger. Yeah, I mean, let's just be real. It was anger, Sandra. I'll never say it wasn't.
Anger is not a bad thing. It's not
Yeah.
a bad thing. It's actually one of the emotions that allows us to take the most action. So it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah. And I never, it wasn't like, I want to go beat this person up, that person. It was just like, when situations face me, it's like, I'll figure out how to get this done with the right people. And it took that bike. That bike really was the reality of how do I do that? But then, you go into corporate America. I was in sales, and very early on, I did very, very well in sales. I'll never deny it. It was almost, I hate to say it, it was almost too easy. I was in a lot of the places at the right time, but I never felt part of those companies. I was like on the leaderboards all the time, going on these trips, hey, blah, blah. And like, I guess because of part of my childhood and what I dealt with, I was like, I don't deserve this. This isn't me. This isn't who I am. And I never felt truly part of something going through these companies. And I was always getting highlighted. So I went through some internal things. And then it got a little harder in corporate America sales when life churned into, 2007, everything, the acopolis happened, or whatever you want to call it. And I had to really figure out how sales worked. And it changed me a lot, because it really had to focus on the relationship and what I did forward. So I wasn't being highlighted as much in companies at that time, but I was also realizing what was more important to me was people. People mattered more. Like people, that's what I really focused on. So I had to go through this internal shift. And fast forward 2017, you can see it behind me. I go do this crazy 100-mile mountain bike race, the Leadville 100. They lie to you. It's 104 miles up in the mountains of Colorado. And I've done a lot of 100-mile mountain bike races, but this one, that elevation teaches you who you are at some point. You're just going to learn what's in you. And if it's in you, you're going to get to the next level. Finished it, came in the top 20%. But when I came across the finish line, I gave that race everything I had, because that elevation whacked me, being an East Coaster. And I came in the top 20%. I was like, wow, I felt like I earned that, because that was a big finish, but my family ran across the finish line with me. And I knew right then life going forward was about making an impact versus just making a living. So as time evolved, I went through some of those hiccups as an entrepreneur.
What year was that, Chris?
What was that?
I'm sorry, what year was that? I know we have a little delay, but I was curious. What year was that race?
2017.
Okay.
2017. Okay. So, it was one of the best summers of life. I actually, I had, since you asked, and I got a little bit off topic, but we'll get back on this. Here's how I left corporate America. I worked really hard training that year, and I was actually really performing well in my company too at the same time. Like I was just on a mission. I was like, gonna get this race done. This is a lifelong dream. Gonna not sacrifice what I'm doing for a living. Gonna honor my employer. I was building a side hustle at the same time. Okay. And I was winning in all those things, if you look at it from the worldly perspective. And then I had a new boss come in, a new sheriff. Okay, we'll call it a new sheriff. I'll never forget, beginning of July. And I was doing so well in my company, I negotiated with the CEO, hey, I'm basically taking August off. This is what I'm going. And he loved it. He was like, I'm all for this, Chris. I love seeing people going after their dreams. And quite frankly, you're killing it here. How can I say no? New sheriff comes into town. Yeah, but new sheriff comes into town. This is where it gets fun. And this new sheriff doesn't tell me there's a sales meeting in early July. Doesn't even tell me about it, because I worked from home. It was down in Atlanta. Didn't invite me. Calls me 2 weeks after that was our first meeting, and rips me apart on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Like, where have you been for the last 2 weeks? You didn't come to a sale. I'm like, you're calling me 2 weeks after a sales meeting. Let's just say it was one of the most interesting conversations I ever had on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And I knew right then God was telling me, I guided you here. It's time. And because I knew the feeling. This is what always happens to you, Chris, in corporate America. This is, like, go look at your history. There's always some type of crazy ending. And right now you're in a position to go do something. Like, you've been building side hustles, you've been doing this. So you're going after a lifelong dream. So I had that conversation at 44 years old with my lovely wife that afternoon. Hey, babe, I got a crazy idea. I'm going to go for a bike ride. Tell you when I get back. And long story short, that Monday morning, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it in July. 9:30 in the morning, I had the come to Jesus meeting with them. Like, if I didn't come with certain things for this new sheriff, he literally was going to basically make my life hell. He told me that. So we turn on the meeting. It's a Zoom. I'll never forget this Zoom. They're looking at me and he's about to, and I'm like, hold on, I'm done. And he's like, it got quiet. It was probably 4 seconds of quiet, but it was one of those.
Yeah. Seemed like forever.
Oh, and I just saw their faces, and my old boss goes, why are you done? Do you know what you just closed? I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I see what's going down, and I have to stand for myself and my family right now. So we either work this out, if we can work this out, how we always had. I had the month of August. You gave me 5 weeks of vacation. I'm using it to go drive to Colorado and back, right?
Right.
And long story short, well, we have to make some changes. You can take a week off, go get a plane and go back. I'm like, this is a lifelong dream with my children. So that's how I left corporate America. Kind of told my wife at the time, hey, we'll take a few months off. I'll go get another jobby thing and we'll figure this out. And I just started building things that were all around community at that time that meant more to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, babe, we got to go for this. We just got to go for this and trust the process. Hit some roadblocks, experienced everything you don't want to financially during that time, right? And yeah, there was moments, but I'm grateful for it because it was that moment that I knew if I am going through this, how many other people who want to make this pivot from corporate America into their own journey will face what I'm facing right now. And I'll tell you, it wasn't fun. I'm never going to deny that. And I just said, we're going to get through this. I trusted God in the process more than you ever want to know. Some very, like, you want to talk about faith. I've been at the limit of faith more times than I think any person ever wants to be. And I kept on going. And sometimes it got harder. And I trusted more and more and more. And then I realized, wow, if this happens to Chris, how many others does it happen to?
Yeah.
We're going to get through this because so many people are going to face this. And if I can serve those people on the other side, when you go through stuff like this, you realize that's your mission in life. That's something you're skilled out to go help people. Yeah. And that evolved eventually into missions that matter. Because when COVID hit, I started doing these challenge things. A lot of people are like, you were great with social media. You were great with this. And I'll never forget something a mentor told me when I was leading a sales team. And he said to me, Chris, you are really, really good at taking very complex information, dumbing it down and teaching people that, and never forget that. That's going to play out in your life. Lo and behold, I go do my first challenge and I took very complex social selling stuff. Yeah. And dummied it down and I was getting people results. And I'm like, light bulb, here we go. And then
Chris, the side hustle that you were starting before you left corporate, was it related to what you do now with the challenges? And I want to talk about the challenges and my experience with you doing that too. But the side hustle, was that connected, or was that like a whole different deal? Am I calling something out that you weren't expecting?
Well, no, it's Sandra. Like, here's the funny part, the funny and not so funny part. Okay. I built this thing up to a 5-figure a month income stream on the side. Okay. So you're pretty comfortable. Yeah. I'm going to jump. This is recurring revenue. It was all community-based marketing. It was the product I drink all the time to keep.
Right. Okay.
My buddy and I want to share with you how it crashed, because here's the unexpected journey of, not the company didn't crash, company's still there, how my business part of it crashed. My buddy's a homeopathic doctor. And back in 2017, 2018, my buddy said a few things or 5 on Facebook he should have never had, because he really knows the body very, very well. He was saying nothing that wasn't truthful. We were disrupting a marketplace, right? He got kicked off Facebook. He was the moderator of our Facebook group of over 5,000 people. That was where everything we had was there. So overnight, because I wasn't the backup mod, they locked his stuff down. I couldn't get in there. And I had some of our people, but that was our machine. Our machine.
See, that's a lesson.
I watched that 5-figure income stream go like this in the next 6 months. And I was like, ruh-roh. And, you know, a lot of you know how I talk about not using private, like, don't use rented land to build a
Yes.
community.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Unfortunately, that's why I say it, right?
Yeah. But that's part of your mission, is to take that lesson. And by the way, I just have to say, going through a couple of your challenges, and you do make things really simple. It is amazing, Chris, how exceptional you are at this. So if anybody is on LinkedIn right now watching that doesn't know Chris Colt and would like to know more about challenges, absolutely, we'll tell you how to connect with him and us before we finish out here in just a little bit. But I mean, I've heard of challenges. I've seen challenges. Most of them were done pretty badly until I sat with you and saw this simple but complex science that you have behind all of this, and how you put those workable steps in there is really brilliant. Like, you know, if somebody says to me, what do you think of Chris Colt? He's freaking brilliant at what he does. I think I even typed that in this morning somewhere on social media. I'm like, you have to be here to understand. And you have been able to really make it clear to me how it works to not just launch something, but to actually build a community around the thing that you're launching. So it's, you know, I was looking at it for a potential podcast launch, really a community launch, a bunch of different things that if you're launching into something, I think anybody follow Chris and get some ideas from him, because I think it's just amazing. So that's I'm your biggest fan in that world. So I just thought I'd throw that at you.
Right, you know, and I totally, I appreciate that. And like, because I've heard that a few other times, and like, people are like, man, you got to be sharing all these tests. I'm like, you know, you get to a point in life, like when you've been through something that it's like, I don't know, like people are really looking for more authenticity, vulnerability, and real people in this world. And I'd rather walk people through that, because I know what it took to come from being very stuck when we lost everything. Man, there's so many mountains in front of you that are just the scariest mountains you ever got to face, especially when you got 3 kids, right? 3 boys. And it's like, no, I got to show them that this could be done. I got to show them, because wherever, thank God I'm an endurance cyclist and I know about perseverance and not quitting, right? Now I'm like, oh, no wonder why you put me on a bike, Lord. Thanks. But you know, but it got me to the point, I know who I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for those who know they have more to give this world, and they know they have an expertise that can transform lives and businesses, but they're kind of stuck. They're not getting the momentum they need, or they just need to know where they need to begin. I can do all that for them. And that's what these challenges are doing, and what we're doing with the community. You know, you're both part of this community, which is awesome. And you're seeing what's starting to happen. And that's where mission that matters. I know we went over a couple different places there, but why are these missions that matter? People out there transform people. That's a mission. Somebody's on their hands and knees right now praying for something. One of the two, you have the answer for that. And it's a matter of you getting your message out to the world. And I know community is the best way to do that, but using the challenges to ignite that. Because in the challenge model, you build trust. You build 2 levels of trust. Because if you do them right, Sandra, you said, you know, you love how I do them. You're building 2 levels of trust, because the person's learning to trust themselves. Wow, I can do this step by step. I can do, like, they actually realize I can do it. And then they're like, and that person there can help me get to the next level because he got me here, or she got me here. So that's why I love it. If you do it right, that's what naturally.
You know that, Chris, I just want to point that out really quick. That from a mental strengthening perspective is really amazing, because I think a lot of times we hesitate to do things. We say, oh, I'd like to do this one day. I dream of doing this one day, if we want to use that language, right? Or one day I'd like to. And when you get into a challenge, and what I love is your challenges are doable. Yes, it's a lot, but they're doable. Where I think some people design challenges to defeat you so that you have to hire them, you know, and you make them doable so that there are action steps that you actually complete. So you get something to do, you do it, and you build that piece of your brain that actually evokes action quickly. And that's what you need in order to really build momentum in a business. And especially if you're pivoting, like you said, you were coming out of corporate, which I think a lot of people are looking to do with this great resignation, great reinvention that we talked about last week. The ability to build that muscle to make those quick decisions and make them well starts with doing a task that isn't something that you usually do. When you're doing a challenge like you're doing, that's exactly what that is. It's like giving yourself something to do that's unusual, like getting up and saying, I'm going to do 10 jumping jacks, and then immediately getting up and doing it. As silly as that sounds, our brain sometimes gets very lazy and sits back. What you actually encourage people to do is to make that quick action and get that brain kind of working, you know? So I love that. It's like calisthenics for your brain.
Well, action is what causes everything. It's either it doesn't matter if it's like whatever the outcome is, good or bad, at least you took action. You're going to move forward continually through the process. Even if the action moves you backwards, it's ultimately going to ignite you forward. It's just because you took the action versus, like you said, I see so many people talk, I'm going to get to this one day. I'm going to get to this one day. Well, one day could go away tomorrow. We're not on this earth long enough for one day.
Well, and actually, the other thing I wanted to just bring in here with what you just said, Chris, and you, Sandra Dee, as well, what you've just described from a leader's point of view, from a leadership position, anybody in a position of leadership, you led yourself first from the inside out. Something I talk about. You chose to lead yourself as Chris Colt through all of these challenges. You grew through these challenges. That takes leadership of self. And until such time as we do that, we can't lead others. I mean, that's one of the key things. And with what you've just described, going through challenges made you the leader, made you the person you are today. So I just want to bring that in, and that say, because of you've created the mission that matters, you're leading that charge because of how you led yourself, because of the challenges you faced.
Right. I mean, we all have to look in the mirror one day and say, hey, no matter what you're facing, like the mirror tells you who's the person responsible. Let's just be honest about that. And even when I went through, like, well, you could have stayed in your job, you could have did it, but like, then I knew the other things too at the same time, like, but that was just going to end. Like, so ultimately, like, you just have to lead yourself, and that person that I'm looking at the camera right here. It's that guy that I see on the other side of that camera that's responsible for this.
Hey, Chris, I want to mention who the community, first of all, before we leave, but also, like, well, let's just do that. Let's just go into the community, because who is the community good for? I mean, it's I know, but I want you to actually voice this community that we're building, or you're building, and we're part of. Who is it good for? Missions that matter.
So to me, subject matter experts. Now, who's a subject matter expert? You can call them thought leaders, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. Like, we're seeing this great resignation right now. These are people who have serious skill sets in corporate America that can come out and change the world right now. Even if you're sitting in corporate, you're like, I got to learn how to do this on the other side. We're giving you an avenue to do that, to get your message out to the world. Those that are already in this journey of entrepreneurship, and they have a skill set that the world needs to know, boom, perfect for you. Because we're lifting each other, we're encouraging each other. You're sitting on a Peloton with us, right? Here you go. Got to get the pipe piece in here.
I
right?
love it.
Got to get that. But we're doing this together. I mean, people, like, the last week I've been on 5 LinkedIn Lives, and people are starting to message me, what are you doing? I'm like, we're getting together further, faster. This is what this is all about, right? This is not one person. And the reason it says missions that matter, it's not mission, it's mission. That S is there because there's many missions in what's in here. But what is amazing, and Peter, you were on our group call yesterday, everybody's starting to click, wait a minute, you're doing this, you're doing this, why don't we start working closer together, because we can help each other move that forward. So to me, you want to get your message out to the world, you have something special, and you're at that moment, like, how do I do this? How can I get there? Have a conversation, learn about this community, talk to Sandra, talk to Peter, talk to me. We're doing this together, and we're going to get a lot further, a lot faster. And it's nice to be a part of something with people. I will say this 100%. If you don't have a servant's heart, this is not for you. The model I will teach you is not for you. If you're like, I'm going to hop in here and I'm making $1 million next month, good luck. It's not, I'm not going to say that stuff doesn't happen. Not in a month, maybe. Okay. But if that's your ultimate goal, if community is not for you, challenges aren't for you, none of what we're doing for you. If your mission is to serve people first and let everything come from an offset of that, you're a perfect fit for what we're doing.
Hey, Peter, do you have a link that you can put up for the community? I know you're always good about that.
I've just posted the link in the LinkedIn feed now for the event, so that's there, so people can join the community through that.
Fantastic.
That's great. I mean, that was a perfect culmination and ending to our LinkedIn Live here, Chris, with what you just said. And
I have one thing I have to bring up, though.
I was just looking on LinkedIn there too. There's a lot of people on, so shout out to all you on LinkedIn.
Any questions? Is there any questions or anything that we should address? Because I had some people. What's there?
No, it's been relatively quiet this time around in the feed. So
Just want to make sure, because you know, as we keep going through this, we want to have questions and
Oh yeah,
like
you want to
connection
interact a ton. Yep.
as well. Yeah. So I told Peter, like, this is actually kind of funny because I'm sitting in a campground right now. And I was like, you know, it's okay because Chris is one of those people that actually, I say, does the work-life balance really well, although we know that the balance is never actually balanced, right? It's
Yeah.
always like one or the other. So I love that you share that part of it, because so often I think being driven on a mission, and I know I work with a lot of women that do this, that go until they hit the wall. And I'm actually recovering from being sick myself, but they go until they hit the wall, either physically or, you know, maybe emotionally, and they don't give that time to rest, relax. And I love that you are very honest about, hey, I'm going to be unavailable the next 3 days. You know, I'm going off and doing this. And I love the pictures that you post helping your boy with his bike skills, looking very good, by the way, Chris.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, no doubt.
That
So
is.
talk to us real quick about that work-life balance.
It's, you know, you want to call it that, you know, you make it look that way. The reality is, like you said, Sandra, like there's those moments, like I'm in this a lot extra right now, but when I know I do that, and like here, I'll use this example. So when clients do challenges, I advise them, hey, here's how this goes. Here's your 5-week run up to this. Here's what it looks after, but I'm going to tell you right now, put on that calendar that Wednesday that you cannot talk to anybody for at least 4 to 5 days, and you turn everything off. They're like, no, I can't do that. And then they're like, after they do, they're like, I now see why, because you build this momentum, this flow, this community, and you give so much to people, you're drained at the end. There's no denying it.
Yeah.
So to me, I try to show them that. And that's why I kind of share these things, like what I do with my kids on the side and all that, because I think that's really important to mix that. And I loved when you hopped on, you're like, hey, let me just show you what's really behind the background. This
Yeah.
is the world we lived in. I mean, I work from home since I was in the early video conferencing age when this stuff was a joke in the 90s. But our mission was this, yeah, work from home. And here it is, the reality. Sandra's in a campground talking to us now. That's freaking awesome.
Well, because I had to, you know, I mean, ask my husband, he's sick and tired of me coughing. He's like, that's it, we're going to the doctor. I go, oh, no, just give me time to relax. I'll be fine. So yeah, we don't want to keep going until we get sick, or relationships are lost, or, you know, there's a lot of different reasons why we have to learn that balance. And so I just appreciate that. And thank you for sharing. And thank you for sharing your time with us today, and to everybody who is watching.
Yes. Thanks very much, Chris. This has been great. And for anybody who wants to find out more, I mean, join the community. You'll find out more within the community as to what Chris is doing, what we're doing. So the link is in the for the community is in the chat. So come and join us, or reach out to any one of us. You'll find us all on LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to have you join our community. So Chris, thanks very much again for sharing a bit of your story and how you came up with Mission That Matters. And that's really powerful. Every leader needs to have a mission that matters, and therefore join this community. Sandra?
Thank you all on LinkedIn Live. Appreciate it. I see a bunch of comments. Hello to y'all. We'll see you later.
Thank you.